Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to True Wealth. I'm Dave Basconi, and here in the studio with me is Maria Smith. Maria, happy Memorial Day to you.
Oh, same to you, Dave.
Yes, any plans for today, or is it a quiet day at home?
We're going to have people over in the afternoon.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a beautiful day, so any activity should go well, whether it's indoors or out. It's just a beautiful, little breeze, blue sky, low humidity. It's good for both man and beast.
Exactly. And what's new with you and with your horses?
Well, not too much is new other than the very warm and humid day the other day was a foretaste of summer, which is always more work for them or with them. But right now they're enjoying a little early morning pasture, and then so nothing is new other than we deal with the weather as it comes. Great.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's on your mind today? What do you want to talk about?
Let's see. I have some wonderful favorite saints that I would love to talk about. How about Saint Faustina, one of my most favorite saints? One of her quotes is this: Jesus loves hidden souls. A hidden flower is the most fragrant. I must strive to make the interior of my soul a resting place for the heart of Jesus. This is really beautiful because especially I think in our day and age, and I am guilty of this myself, with all the social media we have, all of us want to be known more than ever before, and all of us can be known more than ever before. So I think this is wonderful advice, a wonderful suggestion, a wonderful way to look at living our lives in a quiet way. Instead of thinking that, nobody knows who I am, I have to reach out to people. And community is very important. Friendships are very important. But there's one thing actually that, I'd like to get into a little bit more today perhaps, is that the more we are able to connect with other people, to reach out to other people with all the technology that we have, yet there is a growing number of people who are lonely. Loneliness is a growing epidemic, and you can find articles and videos about it on the internet. People are more lonely than ever before. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, matter of fact, I've heard stories, I've read stories about people literally in a group of people, and it could be family, could be at work, and still feeling very lonely. Just the fact that the other people were there didn't matter. They were still just very lonely, depressed. And so the source of loneliness, do you think it's a need for other people, or is it more of a spiritual need, or a combination? How do you see that?
Well, I have thought about that often, and I believe that this loneliness is a need for deeper communication, deeper friendship, a true intimacy with other people and with God. And
I think you couldn't have said it better. That you took the words. I was thinking those very words. So yes, absolutely. Yes.
Group. Yes. And also really a deeper intimacy with ourselves, which means we get to know ourselves. We stop and think why we do the things we do, what we can do better. And all three of those, deeper, closer friendship, intimacy with our Lord, with other people, and with ourselves. Those three things, it's love of God, love of neighbor, love of yourself. You need all three. And almost everything we talk about, almost anything that's worth talking about, always goes back to the two greatest commandments. Everything just revolves right around love. God is love. To love him, we must love other people. To love other people, we must love God. And that is a lack. And the thing is, with this technology, we actually are much more able to live on the surface than ever before.
Yeah, and also I think it was a couple shows back you mentioned the need for that quiet time. We both talked about that, and because that's where you make those connections. Certainly, I think with God, but also and yourself. Those two, you need quiet time to really listen to the whispers, and also you need even though you're having conversation, it could be considered quiet time with other people, one-on-one, and not in this large group with a lot of everybody talking in a very noisy room. And I think that's why sometimes people feel so lonely in that room surrounded by people. They haven't made that connection, and they haven't done they're missing what you just talked about, that connection with, God, neighbor, and yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I just got these images as you were speaking about the one-on-one, which is so important, but also in a group. Now, we spoke the last show that I was in Italy, and they still get together more often, especially the older people. Now, I noticed this all the times that I've gone to Italy in my town. The older men especially will sit on a bench. You'll get 4 or 5 people, and they're together. And they speak, they can be together for hours, and many times somebody's speaking, then another person is speaking. They're sharing their lives. And I'm thinking about in America, the front porch. Remember how important the front porch was when people lived in neighborhoods? They would gather there after their day's work was done, and they would sit there. Maybe the mom still had more knitting or mending to do, or whatever it is that they were doing. The children would play. And this is the way you really got to know one another, spending time. And it could be one-on-one, but it can also be several people, several neighbors who are getting together frequently during, especially the warm months. They're getting together and they're sitting with each other, and they're talking about anything that comes into their minds. They're talking about their deepest desires, or they're talking about things that they're going to do tomorrow. Anything. That's how you get to know somebody, by spending quiet time with them. And the thing is, what you were picturing is really what we have in America now. You get together for 2 or 3 hours with people, you talk, and there's a lot of commotion, if you have a lot of people, and then you go away. And that's okay sometimes, but if that's all you have, it's not enough. You need that quiet time to really sit and be with people.
Yeah, and as you were mentioning the front porch, the other image that came to my mind was 2 neighbors talking by the fence, where 2 houses join, and just seeing 2 people, they're leaning on the fence, and they're having that quiet conversation. The other thing I was reminded of, my mother used to complain after we all moved out, and then we came in for Thanksgiving, that, yes, all 3 boys showed up with their families, but she never had any quiet one-on-one time with us. She goes, with the grandchildren, she had her grandchildren there, she had her sons and daughter-in-laws there, and she goes, for 3 days, it's just nonstop. She goes, and after everybody leaves, the house is so quiet, and it dawns on me that I never had any quiet one-on-one time. So I think that group thing is good. You mentioned the men sitting on the bench talking. I've seen that as well. And I think the level of conversation, unless you're very, very close to these people, you don't get as intimate in your thoughts as you might with that one-on-one with your so-called best friend. So think about it. If you're with friends, acquaintances, you can have a group conversation, but when do your deepest thoughts come out? It's when you're with that person you've maybe grown up with. You have maybe the same faith values. It's that connection that you have with that one person that you're going to have a more intimate conversation.
Yes, you're absolutely right. The one-on-one is the best for the deepest and the most intimate conversation. Almost always, I can see it. With a small group of really close friends, it can also happen. But, But, I've come to really appreciate, now the kind of person I am, I'm much more of an introvert, and small talk was always very difficult for me, and I really always like to go deep. But now I see the value in all manner of conversation. The small talk or the one that you have in groups is really good for certain things and for getting people together. They're all good. Anytime that people can connect, including texting, including even Facebook, including even phone calls, all these things are good. The only thing is we can't do without the most important, which is the one-on-one, especially the one-on-one with God.
Yeah, well, that's that quiet time. That's why, time, adoration, or just quiet time in a church or a chapel is so important, or in your own living room. But you have to make time for it. It has to be part of your schedule. It can't just be something that happens at random, because if that's the way you do it, it most likely won't happen because there's always something else going on, So
you're absolutely right. But you know what? That's the same exact thing for everything. You can't just have it happen at random. Because think about it. You want to learn a language. Oh, it'll happen. You want to have animals. Oh, yeah, that'll happen. They'll take care of themselves. You want to have a wonderful garden. Oh, yeah, it'll happen. Anything worth having never just happens. And if a relationship with God is worth having, it's going to mean we're going to have to put a lot of effort into it. So much effort. And the thing is, it pays off. People, I think, oh goodness, who was it? Was it Fulton Sheen or maybe Chesterton? A wonderful quote. People don't dislike the Catholic Church because it has been tried and found wanting. They haven't tried it because they found it too hard. It's too hard, but I'm going to tell everybody, it is so worth it. It is so worth all the effort, and it does take a lot of effort. Anybody who tries to just sit for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and talk to God, they're going to feel like it's just not working.
Yeah.
But you have to keep doing it, and you have to keep praying, and it will pay off. And the thing is, this is one of my current favorite verses from the Bible, because it just shows the value of this virtue, which is not really appreciated, little appreciated virtue of perseverance. It's like perseverance, other virtues, faith, hope, love, beautiful virtues, more important, patience, gentleness, kindness, humility, obedience. But perseverance is maybe the most important. Well, it's certainly way up top there, because especially as we get older, because perseverance, there is a verse in the Bible. I just remembered it last time. It's funny how I blank out when I really need it. But anyway, it's about, blessed, something about, I think it's blessed are those who yield a harvest through perseverance. What is it? Yield a harvest through perseverance. Well, I can't remember right now.
Yeah, that means a harvest, I think, can be taken in different ways. We can always harvest a garden, but we can also harden the fruits of our work, our labor. And it could be overcoming a harmful problem to ourselves, or changing habits. I think the harvest could be many things, and it would vary from individual to individual. But the key ingredient to all of it is that people were willing to be strong and to persevere and to go the distance. You don't give up after the first couple of days. You have to understand you're in it for the long haul, and that's when I think people start to realize there is a God, and the Holy Spirit works in our lives. Blessed Mary also works in our lives. All the saints. Then that's when it all starts to come together. But it does take time and effort and a desire to see it through.
Yeah, it takes, really and truly takes a lifetime. A whole lifetime.
Yeah.
It takes a lifetime to really accomplish what God wants to accomplish through us. It takes a lifetime to give God permission to work in us so that He can accomplish His mission in us. And I did think of the verse, blessed are those who have kept the word with a generous heart and yield a harvest through perseverance.
Yes, exactly. All this talk about the need for quiet time, I actually ran across, and you may find this amusing, a little proverb. And it came out of a horse magazine, no less. I had over the years, I've, subscribed to many, but this latest edition, last page, it shows a picture of someone on horseback, and there is a pool of water, and you can see the reflection of the horse and the rider in the water. But the proverb goes like this: we cannot see our reflection in running water. It is only in still water that we can see. So there's that same reference to quiet time. Running water is moving, it's in motion, it's the quiet, still water that you see your reflection. And, you can take that to, okay, the reflection I see in a mirror or in this water is something that I'm not really satisfied with. I need to make some changes here. So I think over the centuries, many cultures have found this recognition of quiet time, and they've expressed it in different ways. But the noise of today, it just seems to override a lot of that. And I think that's the source of many of our problems.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I love that proverb. I love proverbs anyway. All proverbs, they just have such truth in them. And that is a wonderful proverb about we really can't see who we are when we're busy rushing around. Just like in the water, you can't see your reflection. But you can when it's still. Then you can find out. That is beautiful. That is wonderful, yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say it just, again, reflects the absolute truth is discovered at any point in human history. It gets reduced to a proverb or, something that we all know to be true. It's almost second nature to the people who either formed it or developed it and who live it. But, again, it's something that has to be guarded or you will lose it because there's always forces, negative forces, evil forces that are working against the truth. And so when I come across something like that, I always stop and take a few minutes. I actually think it through and see how it relates to, other truths that I've read and how I'm living my own life. It's just a really good way to take that extra couple of minutes that we talked about earlier. You got to, sometimes they're unplanned. You have to plan quiet times, but sometimes you run across something like this and you just say, okay, just take 2 or 3 minutes and think about this, then that works well too.
Yeah, Yeah, and what you're saying is actually something that even secular psychologists and counselors, the good ones, are very well aware of. You need to take the time to assess what you're doing. There's one thing on YouTube that I've seen that's no religious quality whatsoever to it, but it has all the same principles. And one of them that I just saw recently was that it said every night, think over what you've done, write down. Oh, and he actually had this little thing that was like a good, better, best. This person, whoever's doing these YouTube videos, said, I think about what I did good. I think about what I can do better. I think about what I need to work on, something about the best. So, and every night he says, I do this. And in the morning I go over what I'm going to do. So this is really what is right for anybody, whether or not they have God in their lives. But, I've said this before, and I will always say it again. If you're searching for truth, if you're searching to become a better person, like like this video, this YouTube video where this person that has no religious quality in the video. I don't know about the person, him or herself. But if you're trying to do that, if you continue on in the path, you will get to God. Because God is the best. God is the truth. God is whatever you want to make yourself best, you're going to find God there. So any virtue on the natural plane can always go to the supernatural plane, and always should if you allow it to, if a person goes the full length.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to have a reference to a religion or the Bible for something to be worthwhile. Because I think philosophy, mathematics, the sciences, they're not rooted in religion per se. You don't see the name Jesus in a textbook on calculus. At least I've not found it yet. But it's just one part of many parts that get you from the natural world to the supernatural world, and that's the key. You have to be able to sort out, regardless of the source, what's true and what's false. And you got to be vigilant about that, because some of the falsehoods and the lies come pretty neatly packaged today. I think there's a complete science on how to sway a group of people. And some of my readings is, what you do is you include just a little bit of the truth. You maybe start off with something that cannot be denied, and it's true. And then you start to take it in the direction that you want, which is some agenda that has nothing to do with the good of our society or true in any way. But that person, if you're at that point, if that person you're talking to isn't really listening to everything and processing everything the way they should, they get caught up. They get trapped, and they just follow your reasoning. What I've tried to do is I listen to every word, every sentence, and I've always got this, where are they going with this? And I think that serves me very well to prevent me from getting caught up in some of the, what I consider the, lies told by the culture.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and the reason that a lot of people fall for these bias, for this fake news or these agendas, is because they don't have time to think it through. They're too busy. They're too busy for their life, And the thing is, I understand that people are too busy, and I've had times in my life when my children were small that I was too busy, but even then I tried to make a little bit of time. But people aren't usually normally busy for their whole lives. You can have a period, 10, 20, even 30 years that you're super busy, but, you can have less. You have to try and make time to really know to really be quiet and know, am I going in the right direction? Should I continue in this direction? What can I do better? All these things. And that video that I mentioned just a few minutes ago, they didn't talk about God, but they mentioned this this Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius, who really practiced the natural virtues. So there are people who have practiced the natural virtues who really try to become better people. And the good psychologists and counselors do take these into account and really there's a lot of good that you can do, even just on the natural plane, but it only takes you so far.
Yeah, and here's the thing, as you were saying, everybody maybe runs into a portion of their life, maybe 20, 30 years when there's kids involved and all, that you're super busy. However, the strategy, I think, for the, thinking adult is that each day has to be broken down into the hours, the waking hours, and despite every day's busy, I still have to find that quiet time. Maybe it's only 15 minutes as opposed to, someone that's retired and they can spend hours in
yes.
quiet time. And the other thing, the other strategy, I think, is to know when to say, I'll get back to you on that. In other words, someone's selling you a bill of goods here, and you're going, okay, I'm not going to make any decisions right now. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be a product or a service. It could be some idea. They're trying to convince you. It could be a politician trying to convince you to vote for them. Okay, I'm not going to make any commitment right now because I need to think about this. And then when you do find that 15, 20 minutes, that's when you start to delve into it a little deeper. And it may take several days for you to completely think it through. But I think that's a strategy that can be used so that you don't fall into these traps. Some people, I think, just out of convenience, go along with something because it's too hard to think it through. Thinking and weighing all the factors can be hard work sometimes, and it's just too easy to say, okay, sounds good to me, and go with it. And then, like I said, they started out with a little bit of truth, but where they're taking you has nothing to do with your welfare or to your benefit,
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say that we do have 4 minutes, and I'm going to comment on what you said, which is I think it's so important. You're absolutely right to find at least 15 or 20 minutes a day, no matter how busy you are. If you have 8 kids or if a husband is working 2 jobs, find that 15 or 20 minutes. And actually, I'm convinced that if a mother were to do that, if a father were to do that, that they would actually have more energy. They would actually see things more clearly and get more done.
Yes, absolutely. Some people can take cat naps, just and a cat nap being 10 minutes, and they come away from that little time, that 10 minutes, fully refreshed. I'm lucky in that I can do that. My wife says she cannot, so it doesn't work for everyone. But it's that little, stop what you're doing, look for that source of refreshment, and then go forward with a clearer mind and just everything. You're far more efficient that way as well, So,
absolutely.
Oh, by the way, yeah, there was I can't remember, one of the saints, I heard that a busy man should pray a half hour a day, and a very busy man should pray 1 hour a day.
Yeah, I've heard that. I love that. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that keeps it in perspective, But the other thing you mentioned about St. Faustina was she's such an important saint because of that image of divine mercy. She just, I think, just brought a whole new dimension to our Catholic faith. And so many things can come from, that image of the chaplet of divine mercy. She was such an important saint in our history,
Absolutely. Yes, one of my favorite saints, and so important, especially for the last century, the last 100 or 120 years or whatever. So important because people's sins have multiplied. Well, people live longer lives, people travel more, people are less connected with their community, with their family. When you're less connected, you really feel like you can do more things because it's like, well, who's going to know about it or who's going to care about it? Whereas before, I think a lot of people were held in check because they lived in smaller towns, smaller communities. They didn't want to be the outcast. They didn't want to be shunned. They didn't want to be rebuked. And so I think there's a lot more going on. And, of course, now with the media, with the Internet, as much as there's so much good on the Internet, there's also, if you want to sin, it's a lot easier.
Oh, yeah. And, it's a distraction, and any action on your part should be looked at from the fruits that it bears. If it's bearing good fruit, then whatever you're doing is probably good, and you should continue to do it. And if it's bearing bad fruit, then by all means you need to stop. So I think that's a really simple test, and maybe you're not the one to run the test. Maybe you should ask someone you trust. If I get involved, if I do this, and again, it goes back to that one person you can be intimate with, that one-on-one conversation.
Yeah.
That on the front porch or over by the fence, you ask them the very important question and let them, give you direction in that regard.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, that can actually tell you if you're going in the right way or the wrong way is really having a sense of peace and a sense of generosity and love towards others. If you have the sense that you want to love and reach out to others and you're peaceful, that's good. But if you're anxious and if you're worried, if you're concerned, and really this goes for a lot of parents, don't be overly worried and concerned. Absolutely care about your children, but if you have anxiety about them, and the greater the anxiety there is, the worse it is, because you're not really looking at the picture. You're not trusting in God.
Yeah, I think that your conscience talking to you. If you're at peace, your conscience is quiet for a reason, and if you're anxious, there's a reason for that too. So we all have this sense of right and wrong, and it comes to us in different ways, I think.
Yeah. Well, we've reached the end of the show.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll just go right to our closing prayer since we're at the end. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Amen.
Happy Memorial Day to everybody, and for all those who have died, we pray for their souls.
Yes. Have a good day, Maria. Take care now.
You too, Dave. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.